Welcome Scorpio to your in-depth monthly forecast for October 2025. I'm going to share some of the big themes of the month to begin with, then on the screen your event chart right at the start of October, which always provides an influential backdrop for the whole month. I'm then going to go through all the key influences frame by frame to give you a clear picture of what to look forwards to. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, please do so now and help it to continue to thrive. Please also click or tap the bell notification symbol. Your two rulers, Scorpio, traditionally is Mars, which starts this month in your sign, so domicile. That's very helpful indeed. Your other more modern higher octave ruler is Pluto, and that starts this month in the part of your scope, as it has for some time now, that's very much to do with home and emotions. Now, having Mars in your own sign, it's going to give you a determination to go for what works for you, the individual, but they are broadly square as you come into October. And I think that energy between them, which can be to do with power battles, to be honest, but certainly to do with desire, could see you at moments this month, but particularly I feel in the first 2/3 of the month, perhaps attending to some sensitive issues that may have been pushed to one side, or perhaps other people have been reluctant to discuss, but your passion and desire to bring these into the open is going to grow with conviction as the month unfolds, because Mercury, the planet of communication, joins you on the 6th, and the Sun joins you on the 23rd. So the last third of this month is going to see you very assertive, but the first part of this month perhaps in a much more tender space. But just before I go into that, I want to share with you about my unique offer. You can order your personal natal forecast for year 2026 now, and I'll give you the rest of this year free. But also you'll get 30% off the individual prices, and you'll get your life roadmap report in my special package. That really helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far, all of us. It's totally unique to each person, but understanding those patterns and matching them to the forecast will help you to make your moves in the new year much more shrewdly. But also in my special offer, you'll get your free general zodiac forecast for each of the 12 signs, but also your Chinese forecast, your Vedic forecast, and your love forecast too in my special booklets. Please see the link below for more. On the screen now, I'm sharing your event chart right at the beginning of the month. There's Mars in your sign, 5 degrees 50. Mars loves being in your sign. It's very much to do with desire. There's something about Mars in Scorpio that's different to Mars in Aries, which obviously it also rules. I feel, in a way, it primes you to want to take on challenges, to not duck out of complex or sensitive matters. But you can see Pluto is on that 4th house cusp. It's going to be there for a long while, as you know, probably through to 2043 initially, and then again to 244. So where you live, how you live there, who with, your own inner emotions are going to go through quite a revolution over those years ahead. So Mars being in your own sign can make you very direct at the start of this month, but look at the position of the Sun and also Mercury. They're in house 12. The 12th house can be very much more psychological. It can be issues that we're a bit reluctant to look at, our shadow side. It may be some details with Mercury in the 12th house that you need to be very attentive to, because Mercury is actually in a very buoyant right angle with Jupiter at the start of this month. Now, Jupiter moved into your sister water sign at the start of June, Cancer, where it loves to be, and that's very much about expansion and travel. But that runs counter to that Pluto energy, which is asking you to concentrate more on your inner world or where you live. But when Jupiter moved, it came into a conflict with Saturn at that time in Aries. And perhaps you haven't really felt that your life was opening up in quite the way you've wanted, because that initial chart as Jupiter arrived wasn't blessed with as much benefits as it normally would do. Now, early next year, Jupiter's going to come back to you in a very much more positive way, and it can do later this month too. But as you go into this month, it's important to understand that if something or someone says something that seems insensitive or is a little bit triggering, that angle between Jupiter and Mercury could see you express how you feel in a very reactive way. Also be aware the moon is in Capricorn at the start of this month, but in an opposition with Jupiter. So on the face of it, that's quite a bubbly opposition, especially about communication, but it's just because of Mercury being in the 12th house. So I think, particularly through to the 6th, but possibly throughout the month, something could come into the open. There could be a revelation, but it may be you driving that, pushing to get someone to discuss something that they're reluctant to look at, or conversely, someone could be pushing you to look at something that you feel a little tender about. But the more beneficial side of the Sun and Mercury in the 12th house, it's brilliant for taking soundings behind the scenes, doing research, checking out how people might feel quietly, confidentially. And the Sun is actually in a fine link with Mars as we come into October, what's known as a semi-sextile, 30 degrees. So don't underestimate, even if things don't seem to be rattling along at the pace you would like early in the month, don't underestimate that whatever you're doing in preparation can come out later on in a constructive way. Now, if we go back to the 1st of September, Saturn, which obviously can be challenging. Saturn reminds us of our responsibilities, our limitations. And it's in your 5th house. And it's going to be joined again this month by Neptune, which inverts back into Pisces for one final time in this entire cycle of 165 years through to the end of January on the 22nd of this month. But Saturn begins this month just asking you to work very hard at your talents. Because if you do, later this month, as I will share shortly, there is a massive window of opportunity. But if you're feeling, because of the Sun and Mercury in the 12th house, that you're not really getting the recognition that you deserve, or people are sidelining you, or you're encountering some gossip, just keep the faith. This month is going to develop favourably for you. Venus also starts this month in your 11th house. The friends that are really worthy of you can be very important this month, but I do feel by the middle of the month you could be reviewing some involvements, perhaps even a romantic one. So that's what we come into the month with. But on the 6th, Mercury arrives in your sign. Mercury here is the ultimate researcher. This would be brilliant if you wanted to work in forensics, if you wanted to work in medicine, perhaps in a lab, if you wanted to work in banking or finance, someone who really was able to penetrate right down into the numbers in a brilliant way. So Mercury moving into your sign shifts you from reflection to being in the present. And of course you have Mars itching to make an impact in your sign, perhaps a little impatiently at times. And as this month goes on, the two are going to get closer and meet on the 20th. But I'll share more about that shortly, because on the 7th we have the first lunation. It's a full moon. It's in the other sign that's ruled by Mars, which is Aries. But for you, this particular full moon, the 6th, 12th axis, could tease into the open any intrigues, possibly politics at work. If you're not really enjoying where you're working, you can't really feel you can trust certain individuals, that could be a theme for a couple of weeks. Then on the 13th, Venus moves into your 12th house, and that can heighten a part of you that wants to really understand the sincerity of all sorts of connections, but it could make you much more thoughtful through to the 6th of November. But if a relationship has been stumbling, I think this can see you really thinking very carefully about whether to continue. It does forge an immediately positive link to Uranus, and also Pluto. But it's very, very psychological. So what you're wanting in any relationship, even a financial relationship, is an understanding of what people's true motivations are. But this is where your talent for understanding what's not necessarily spoken can really glow up right at the heart of this month, because also Pluto on the 14th ends a 5-month retrograde. So if you have been feeling uncertain about where you live, or there's been some politics with family members, or your own inner journey has felt very deep and tender at times, it wouldn't be a surprise. So even though Venus does dive deep into the 12th house, which can make us think very carefully about people from our past, whether ties are viable in the present, whether people are as honourable and trustworthy as we would like, because of the connection to Uranus, which is exalted in your sign, but also to Pluto, your modern ruler, I feel your talent for divining what people really think or mean is going to be astonishing. So if you wanted to make some informed decisions around investments or a relationship at this time, I don't think anyone is going to pull the proverbial wool over your eyes, but it could be a point in the month where you do feel a bit tender, if I'm honest. But then the 15th through to the 26th, peaking on the 20th, Mercury's moving forwards and forges a very confident conjunction. That's where two planets are side by side, with Mars, your traditional ruler. That's magnificent. If ever there was an energy that can put you on the front foot, up for challenges, you're a very formidable person when you're fired up, very determined and willful in a positive way, and something that's important to you that you want to drive forwards with can start to shape up over the next few days. It's just the new moon, ordinarily a positive event, is actually in your 12th house on the 21st. So if you are coming to terms with someone who hasn't met your expectation, it could show up on that. But then the 22nd sees Neptune join Saturn back in your 5th house. The 23rd, the Sun storms into your sign. One of the most exciting moments of the whole year, but this year, like last, squares with Pluto, your modern ruler. Now, of course, that's part of the story of this month from the beginning of the month, with Mars and Pluto in a square. So I think if something you want to achieve for you as the individual goes counter to what you need emotionally, or what people close to you want emotionally, that's where there could be tensions, politics, or even arguments. But one of the things you will find with Mars being joined by the Sun in Scorpio is your physical vitality will skyrocket. You're going to really feel much more strident in the last 10 days of this month. Up for any kind of challenge. If you feel people are being unfair, you're up for all comers. You're really going to be combative. And I think that's when Scorpios can be at their best. You don't like it when people have double standards, or people perhaps you yourself can be at times very shrewd, all the way to maybe even cunning, but you do have a particular set of standards that you expect from other people towards you. And I think you're going to roar into action in the last third of this month in a very exciting way. But there may be some skittles that are knocked out of the way as you thrust forward. So one of the tricks, I think, is going to be important not to run counter to your own needs by being too impatient, too impulsive, particularly with Mars and Pluto in a square from the start of the month, and the Sun's square with Pluto, and also the conjunction with Mars and Mercury. So that can bring out a much more strident, direct, perhaps even argumentative part of your nature. But what I wanted to tell you is, if we go back to Jupiter moving into Cancer, because it's exalted there would have been videos out there sharing about how amazing this is going to be, particularly for water signs. Because Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces, a lot of people relate to Jupiter as the ruler of Sagittarius. That's its happy-go-lucky, very confident, optimistic, expansive energy. It still has that in Cancer, but it's really more about the emotional domain. And as this month comes to a close, Mars in your sign moves forwards, aligns with Jupiter, but also Saturn. So we have a grand water trine. It's brilliant because I don't think when Jupiter moved into Cancer it got off to the best start. As I mentioned before, you will receive its blessings next year in the first 6 months of 26 in a much more fulsome way. So because Jupiter's in the ninth house of travel and expansion, because Saturn's in the fifth house of fun, joyfulness and expression, I know Saturn's not really associated with those things, but Saturn is associated with industry. Put industry into those things, but having Mars in your sign, which is about initiative, brings out its more Aries echo. It's about you taking on challenges in a very direct and instinctive way. And if you push forwards towards the end of this month confidently around something that you're really proud and sure of, but something that helps you to express your unique brilliance and charisma, you can really achieve a major breakthrough as this month draws to a close. Also, Mercury moves out of your sign on the 29th, and there could be some good but unexpected financial news, just absolutely from nowhere. Ping, an email, text message, and it could really, really please you because of the opposition to Uranus. So the first half of this month, Scorpio, very much a balance between what you want to achieve in the here and now with Mars in your sign. Jupiter and Mercury. Jupiter is buoyant, but it's saying stay in touch with your feelings, your sensitivities. There is that sensitive stuff to work through. Venus is going to be moving into a deep part of your chart at the heart of the month. It does link very well to two planets that are important to you, Pluto and Uranus. There could be a major revelation, but the last third of this month is your turn to turn up the celestial afterburners. Really feel that heavenly energy is right behind you. And if you're focused, clear on what your plan and strategy and desires are, nothing is going to stand in the way of a very committed and motivated Scorpio like you. If you've yet to watch my year 2026 deep dive forecast for Scorpio, please click on the link within this video, which will take you there. Have a great October, all the best, and goodbye.